Call to order this meeting of the Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioners Cross and Paloma, who are excused. We did have an executive session where we discussed matters of personnel and real estate. We'll now do a pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silence. If I could ask Commissioner Engel to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. We'll begin with petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Please come up to the podium. Tell us your name and.
Can't hear you very well.
Oh,
You're
is the microphone
whispering.
working?
You're whispering.
little quieter. Go ahead.
My name is Letitia Garnes. I live at 2420 Oxford Avenue. I'm coming because, first of all, I'd like to say that the cleanup from the tornado what we had, they did a good job on the roads. But, there's two matters that I'm kind of concerned is, at the time, I wasn't at home, I was in Seattle, but nobody got any notification that there was a tornado or rotation in the area. And I thought that usually on your cell phones, like the Amber Alerts that would come through, and I'm kind of concerned as to why nobody was notified. So that was my one question. And the other one was after the tornado came through and they did the cleanup in the streets, some of my neighbors still have branches and stuff in their yard because some of them can't afford to pay. But I remember one time we had a storm come through and they let us pull our branches and stuff to the street and they were taken away. And I was kind of curious as to why we didn't get a little bit more help than what we did. That's it.
Okay. I know they work very hard at two things. We have an alert system called Code Red. You know, in addition to all the Amber Alerts kind of things that you mentioned, we have our own Code Red that is staffed by our police department, and we do issue notifications. So you might want to let us know what your phone number is to make sure that we have it in the system. Okay, so that you do get, the phone call. The other thing is we do our best to pick up where we can, as does, but if you have a question about that or you need some assistance, you should just call the township and, alert us to your situation, because you don't want to get a call from the township saying, hey, you're in violation of the codes because you have all these branches in your yard. So there needs to be a communication flow. And if you could help us initiate that with us, that would be helpful.
Well, I would have just thought that since it was, a major tornado, that we would have had a little bit more help than we did as far as getting rid of the brush.
Yeah, well, believe me, our guys were out there overtime and
Oh, I know.
working
I saw them.
long hours.
They did a good job,
Yeah,
but
they did.
we needed a little bit more assistance as far as our end.
Understood.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
thank you.
Thanks for coming with you. Anybody else wish to address the board?
I just have a question. What's the
Please come up to the
ordinance?
microphone so that we can, you got a boot?
Yeah, I had surgery, so.
Are you from Canada?
I
Down here we call
just
it a
wanna know,
boat.
what's the ordinance
Hold on.
on cameras?
Hold on a second.
If somebody has a camera like pointed right at your house and it's not, I mean, they have a lot of
Can you
cameras.
please tell us your name and your address?
Brooke Sterling, 1150 North 22nd Street. I'm just concerned because we have a new neighbor that likes to put up lots of cameras, and there's some that are just directly facing nothing that would, it's just directly on our house, and I'm just wondering why, what's the ordinance on that? He has them tried, like they're sort of disguised, but you know, that's what they are, and there was another neighbor that was doing it, but he took his down as far as I know. But, this guy,
You mean somebody else has a camera pointed at your house?
yeah, directly at the house. It's not pointing at anything else. He has a lot of them up around the house, like right near his door facing out, but this is like right inside his fence, like right close to the road.
If you could, after we're done here, just go over and talk to Chief Martin and give him your address again and your name, and
Okay,
he'd be able to give you any advice that he could.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board? All right, hearing none. Approval of minutes, September 26th, Board of Commissioners Workshop.
Mr. President, I will move for approval of the September 26, 2024 workshop meeting minutes.
Thank you. Second.
Moved in second. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the proposed 2025 street paving projects. Mr. Greenland?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Commissioners. So I was asked to put together a really brief presentation regarding the upcoming or potential upcoming 2025 paving project for next year. Nate, Travis, and myself met a few weeks back to discuss potential roadways for improvement next year. Kind of settled on those listed right here. Locust Street, Nottingham Way, Penrose Street, Schoolhouse Lane, Sylvan Place, and Wood Street. So these are all kind of south of Walnut Street, in proximity to Susquehanna Township Middle School, a little bit north. Go to the next one, please. So there's a site map of the roads being proposed for paving. Kind of in a close proximity. The feeling that if we don't spread out as much, there'd be some cost savings through the contract via reduction of mobilization costs. And these streets were selected in part due to their proximity to, go ahead and in their location in proximity to some other projects that are occurring in the area. That of the recent sanitary sewer replacement project that paved a portion, the northern portion of Wood Street, just south of Locust Lane, and as well as the drainage improvement project that I believe GHD is in the process of designing down near just south of Schoolhouse Lane along Wood Street as well. So each of those projects involved improvements to the roadway via, paving overlays and such. So to provide some connectivity and continuity between all of those projects, felt that these were good streets to select for a 2025 paving project. In addition to their location, all of these streets have a pavement condition index score of 4 or worse. So these aren't streets that just need a touch up. These are roads that could really use some love and attention. Specifically, Wood Street is in pretty dire straits and is a very heavily traveled road. So, along with the paving aspect of the project, significant ADA deficiencies exist in the neighborhoods where these streets reside. So the project would incorporate some ADA compliance improvements, specifically ADA compliant ramps and crosswalks. So certainly aid improvement of pedestrian movement through that area, and being in close proximity to the middle school, I think they're relevant and needed. Does anyone have any questions on just the streets? The next slide gets into kind of the costs of the project.
Yeah, I do. I have
Sure.
a question, Alex. I
I think it's really prudent that we're planning this out and we have a plan, and I see what you're doing here in focusing on one area. I also think it's great that we had hired HRG to do a plan to evaluate all our streets to see which were in the worst condition. And looking over the plan and the year-by-year suggested street improvements, I know there was a street in my ward that was on the list for this year. And I see it's not on here. So I'm wondering how those situations are going to be addressed, because it was in poor condition as well. And obviously it's not going to get any better as it ages. And so I'm wondering if there's not a sewer project in the first ward, there's not going to be any streets paved in the first ward. I'm just wondering how this is gonna happen, because last year I ran into a similar situation where there was a very small area slated for paving and in the first ward, and it got bumped off. I then, brought that up, and then at the end, it was decided that there were some funds to do it, but it seems like in every year situation where the streets are getting bumped from the plan.
Can I piggyback on this?
Sure.
Real quick. One of the reasons that you may, because of these committees that we have, one of the reasons too is UGI, we're also working not just with our sewer, but we're working with the other utilities that may be digging up that road, and they may not be slated to go uptown and dig on, the road that you're referring to until UGI goes in. So we don't want to do it twice. We want to go in when UGI goes in, they dig it all up, and then we go in and do our project, and then we repave one time, so it's done once instead of twice. UGI digs, then they pave, then we come back, and then we dig, and then we pave. So it's a coordination game is what we're playing here. I just wanted to put that out for
Well,
you 2 seconds.
I appreciate and understand that, and UGI did dig in our ward, and they tore up a good portion of it, and none of it has been repaved, except one block.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just using UGI as an example.
yeah, but no, it's,
And
I
it could be
understand how
water,
it
it could
works.
be any utility out.
We had a
Yeah.
project where it was storm sewer, UGI, and the water, so I do understand how that works, but I just want to know from year to year. So if there's not going to be a major project in the first ward, we're not going to pave failing streets.
No, so I will answer that, but I do want to address the 6th Street paving restoration from UGI. We're kind of exploring, or not exploring, but investigating whether their restoration was sufficient. There's potential for improvement along 6th Street in relation to that restoration. Additionally, UGI, I'm currently reviewing permits for gas improvements on 4th, 5th, Bergner, all in the Montrose area. So there's gonna be some paving improvements done through that into next year. Additionally, this year we paved north of Linglestown, we paved 2nd, 6th, and is it Penrose? Pinecrest, Pinecrest.
Yeah, it was a small one block
Right, that
area,
block,
it was a
right,
little block,
right.
yeah.
So,
That's-
yeah, I mean, we can certainly, obviously, there's a lot of roads that are in need of some love. There was the one specifically that you had question on, what was that?
It was the one that was on the list, I believe it was 3rd.
Okay.
But, and I realize there's lots of roads in the township, but it's my job to question.
No, sure,
If
I understand.
the streets in my ward are getting bumped every year, it's my job to sit here and ask.
So I'll answer him with some of that. So I've been working with UGI, and like he said, he's reviewing these permits. UGI pretty much told me they're not gonna be out of the uptown neighborhood until 2026. So, like Commissioner Napper said, I want them out of my way, so I know we're not putting down a fresh road, and they're digging all these new services
Okay.
and new trenches. They're in consent agreement, like we are on the sewer side to make upgrades. They're on consent agreement to get all their cast lines out by the end of 2026. So, and as part of these, like this last year, I got them to pave 2 alleyways, 1
You
road
did,
and a half.
you did a
So,
fantastic job,
with this new ordinance that you guys adopted,
yes.
it is requiring allowing us to require them to pave more roads, so like the plans he's referring to, there's quite a bit of paving that's gonna come out of that,
Okay,
thanks to the new ordinance you guys adopted,
all right,
because it's a little more cheap. But once they're out of there from 2026, then we can reevaluate, like, where was it touched? Everyone's out of the way, what can we do so it lasts longer?
okay, I appreciate that, and yes, I do acknowledge that you did get some areas repaved that they have torn up completely, thank you.
But we're working on some of the ones that didn't pave as great to come back and refix. We're working on that curve.
All right, thank you for, I appreciate
Thank
the
you.
answers.
Thank you for the comments. All right, Mac, do you want next one? So these are the preliminary budget figures. Again, these are preliminary, based on just a site walk measurements, that type of thing. If and when we get to actual design, we'll certainly develop a more refined cost estimate. As you can see, the red for Locust Street indicates these would be, or that street would be funded through TIF funds allocated each year by the township. This year, that was a nice street that kind of fit in that budget line and is really efficient. The remainder proposed to be funded through liquid fuels funding. There you can see at the bottom the approximate $1 million price tag for all 6 streets. So, do you have anything to speak on the budget stuff, or?
So as far as what's there, I mean, everything there is liquid fuels eligible. We are looking at other options for funding. Now, the whole lower part of the Wood Street project, that's another like $1 million project. That whole area is gonna be paid for under stormwater because it's a whole new culvert. That whole section floods. That's gonna include connectivity. The sidewalk ends leaving the middle school for about 150 feet till you get to where the houses are. So part of that stormwater project, we're going to connect the sidewalks so all the kids leaving school are no longer walking on Wood Street. So a large section of Wood Street is gonna be done under stormwater as well.
That's all I have. If you have any questions, I would be certainly happy to answer.
Thank you.
Great report, guy. And what about the humps that are currently on Wood Street?
It's just a lot to be replaced.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
I think people are using the lane cuts to navigate the center line of the roadway.
Oh, definitely.
Unfortunately.
We're proposing to replace them with the standard PennDOT style speed.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I ask him because the neighbor always asks me. That's his way to work.
I travel that quite often. Witness that
Yes.
every single time.
Next up,
Do we need a motion?
oh yeah, is there a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Sanderson and Hisro. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of committees, buildings and grounds, Commissioner Rothbach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our engineer has reported that the highway occupancy permit application was approved by PennDOT and the permit has been provided to the township. And the project manual and bidding documents are completed and we're waiting for an insurance limit from our insurance provider. And once that's received, the project will be publicly bid. That concludes my report. If I get anything wrong, Alex.
Well, just an update, we did get the insurance information back. We've incorporated it in the project manual. We will provide a copy for the township review if they so choose, then we'll move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Budget Finance Commissioner Sanderson.
Thank you, yes. Pension meeting should be on the 23rd, I think. Is that right? Jill? Yeah, we got it right. And so more news coming about that. And budget process is coming along very nicely. I think we've got another couple of meetings to go. And we've really dug into it on details. So there is always, as always, an open request. If any of the board members have questions or desires to draw attention to certain topics, please do just let us know. Call Nan, send an email, whatever you like. But I think we're getting close. I think everyone on the committee has a strong sense of what's necessary. And we just have to make some decisions because we're confident in the numbers that have been presented to us. Thank you very much, Township staff. Nan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Just to pick up on a couple of things. So we're gonna meet on the 24th again, and on November 12th, I guess we're meeting on the 17th again, it's Budget Committee. And then on the 24th, we're hoping to have something to present to the Board of Commissioners with a consideration to advertise for a public hearing and with the vote on the public hearing on November 12th. I would like to thank our Finance Director, who has picked up doing this year's budget and has worked very hard on it. Had to recreate the template that was used originally in prior to Mr. Van Boekel being here, showing actual data rather than in a tabular form in Word. So she's done quite a bit of work on that. She also was able to clarify what our fund balances have been for the past few years, and we're on the way to having a standard methodology for establishing the fund balance, and which is recommended to be adopted as policy. So I'd just like to thank Jill, who is here tonight. Thank you. And great job.
Will we have that policy at the next meeting?
No.
Okay.
That'll be on my list, kind of my exit
Sure,
list of
that's fine.
things I
Thank
need
you.
to accomplish.
All right. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President, some of this may be a repeat. Alex and Nate stole all my thunder. In the month of September, the Public Works staff performed tree and limb removal due to the recent rainstorms. The fall leaf collection has begun effective October 7th and will end December 20th. Guide rail repair continues throughout the township at the following locations: Clayton Avenue, Paxton Church Road, and Walker Mill Road, plus Roberts Valley Road. The Public Works staff completed paving on 2nd Street, 6th Street, and Pinecrest Drive. The Public Works staff current projects consist of storm pipe replacement and paving on Deer Path Road, plus the stormwater improvements, which will consist of milling and paving on Gallon Road and Fox Hunt Drive. As a final note, Mr. President, a complete list of the township paving schedule can be found on the township website. This ends my report, sir.
Thank you, excellent report. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two notes. The next yard waste pickup by Penn Waste will be Saturday, October 19th. And just a note that the collection of trash and recycling will not be impacted by Monday's holiday. So they'll be on a normal, Penn Waste will be on a normal collection schedule next week. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Admin and Personnel, Commissioner Napper.
No report, sir.
Police, Commissioner Engel.
No report.
Thank you. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Hisro.
Yes, Mr. President, very briefly, this week is Fire Prevention Week. Our firefighters have conducted fire prevention at Sarah Lindemuth and Thomas Holtzman Elementary Schools. And the daycares are scheduled for next week and tomorrow as well. And the Public Safety Committee meets this coming Monday, so I'm sure I'll have more to report next month. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Rothrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a planning commission meeting held on the 23rd of September. There were three items that were considered at that meeting. The first was the multifamily complex ordinance amendment, which is a zoning text amendment for establishing permitted use in the MU1 mixed use corridor high density zoning district and establishing specific standards for multifamily complex use. This amendment was actually recommended for rejection by the Board of Commissioners, by the Planning Commission. Bridgeway Community Church of the Brethren, this was a preliminary and final minor subdivision plan for subdividing existing parcel, which contains an existing church and parsonage, but they want to divide it into three separate parcels. One would be the church, Second would be the parsonage residency, and the third would be vacant for the purpose of residential development. They were also requesting a waiver for installing a sidewalk along Elmerton Avenue to connect two existing sections of sidewalk. After some discussion, that was tabled. It's going to be reconsidered, I believe, in the near future. And the third item was the Pennsylvania State Laboratory Facility, which is a land development plan for constructing a state laboratory on the state hospital grounds. The waivers and plans were recommended for approval subject to conditions being met prior to consideration by the Board of Commissioners in that particular case. The zoning hearing board meeting for the 2nd of October was canceled. That concludes my report.
Thank you. School board, our two liaisons are out. Is there anything for the good of the order? Hearing none. Authority, Commissioner Knapp.
Sure. Mr. President, Susquehanna Township Sewer Authority met October 1st. Commissioner Sanderson briefed the board on the Latchmere Pool and stormwater lot history. And under development is the Chick-fil-A is proposing to construct a new restaurant located at 2009 Dotson Court next to the Burger King. Our authority engineer reviewed the sewage planning module, and the board approved the sewage planning for the collection of the module. As a final note, Mr. President, staff continues to update GIS mapping. This ends my report, sir.
Thank you. Shade tree. Pam's not here. Jody, do you have anything?
I do not.
Anything from staff?
No, sir.
Communications, Commissioner Barczyk.
I don't have anything.
Newsletter looks great, again.
Yeah.
Congratulations, thank you. It's really improved since you got that committee started.
Afraid I can't take any credit for that.
Human Relations and Parks and Recreation. Do we have anything for Parks and Rec?
Mr. President, I'll just report that the committee did meet with the 4 entities that submitted proposals for the 5-park master plan last week, and I believe, I think it was September 30th. And at next week's meeting, they plan to make a recommendation to be put, I think, in our next meeting in terms of which one should be adopted. That's all I report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to public hearings, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Miller to conduct the public hearing.
Thank you very much. On September 12th, the board authorized the advertisement of public hearing on an ordinance. It's kind of a potpourri ordinance amending multiple sections of Chapter 25 trees of the Code of Ordinances. The ordinance is 24-06. It has kind of 5 major changes and then 3 more changes with regard to numbering. Those 5 changes are a change in the definition of code enforcement officer to include any officer of the township authorized by the Board of Commissioners to enforce the code of the township. Change to section 104, indicating that people have to get proper permits before removing a tree necessitated by the installation of solar panels. And change to section 105.5, indicating where a tree poses a danger to health, safety, and welfare. The code enforcement officer is empowered to take certain steps. Section 107, allowing for appeals from the Shade Tree Commission to the Property Maintenance Board of Appeals. Section 116, setting forth some additional distances from utilities and physical conditions in the right-of-way. This has been reviewed by staff, has been reviewed by the Shade Tree Commission, and so I would take, let me first ask Mr. Breach or the manager if they have any additional comment on the ordinance.
Sure, so the only 2 changes to the ordinance as presented at the meeting on the 12th There were some small typographical changes brought to my attention by Commissioner Cross, which have been addressed, and to Commissioner Rabarchek's point, originally the tree planting separation distance from intersections was proposed to be 45 feet. After review with the Shade Tree Commission and further discussion, that has been reduced to 25 feet. Those are the only two changes made since the board has last seen it.
Thank you, Mr. Breach. Manager, anything?
No.
Okay. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on these changes to this particular ordinance? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Any member of the board that would like to be heard on these ordinances? I will say it as I say it every time. I know that from time to time, people, when they look at this, wonder, why does government spend its time thinking about this? It matters if you have a tree in your yard. It matters if your neighbor has a tree. And it certainly matters to the township in setting forth clear rules for what we do with regard to trees. And as we adopt more solar and we adopt more, and we certainly try and encourage trees, it makes a big deal to have these rules in place. So, Mr. President, given the fact that we have had the public hearing as required and the explanation provided by Mr. Breach, I close the hearing, turn the gavel back to you, and ask that the board consider adopting ordinance 24-06.
Okay, the meeting was duly advertised.
It's duly advertised, and the advertisement is in your packet and is made part of the record of this.
Okay. Is there a motion on the turning to the ordinance?
Second.
Commissioner Sanderson and Commissioner Engel. Any comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. President. I would like to recognize that I believe the Shade Tree Commission, they work really hard. They really care about the trees and the character of the township. They do a lot of good work, including the fall tree planting. I do have concerns about the planting provisions. It's A through J, and if you took a time to read the distances, although Mr. Breach, I do take note that they did lessen the one distance. I appreciate what they're trying to do, but it's not a one size fits all. I feel like if you're going to put these provisions in place with distances, you have to take into consideration other factors like lot sizes. So again, going to where I live, the first ward, the lot sizes are more compact. And we do have a lot of trees. We're blessed with a great tree canopy. But if you applied these provisions and took out the trees that didn't meet these provisions, and I know that's not their intent, I'm just trying to paint a picture, you wouldn't have very many trees left in the first ward. So for that reason and that reason only, I don't support this because I think it's really going to hinder people with smaller lot sizes from planting trees.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
No.
Two. Got that, Leah? All right, thank you. Moving on to staff reports. Mr. Madam Manager, do you have anything?
Don't we have Chick-fil-A? Yeah,
Chick-fil-A.
Oops.
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Oh, Dotson Court Chick-fil-A, preliminary subdivision and land development plan. Mr. Breach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Provided with the agenda is a copy of the preliminary and final subdivision and land development plan submitted for Chick-fil-A, located at 2009 Dotson Court. The purpose of this plan is to subdivide the existing approximately 12-acre lot into an approximately 2.1-acre building lot, which is proposed to be developed with an approximately 5,300 square foot quick serve restaurant with associated drive-through facilities and related site and access improvements. The site is accessed at the southern end of the Dotson Court cul-de-sac. This project is located adjacent to the existing Burger King in the commercial highway zoning district in the 7th Ward. Additionally, the applicant has requested 3 subdivision and land development ordinance waivers. First being from section 22404, preliminary plan procedures. The second being from 221107, the sidewalks along Progress Avenue. And the third being 22305.G, relating to the level of service traffic impact study. After a meeting on August 26, 2024, the Planning Commission recommended approval of all waivers as requested in the plan, subject to the following conditions. Condition 1 being that all comments from the township staff memo dated 9/18/2024 and the township engineer's memo dated 9/20/2024 are addressed. Second being receive traffic impact study approval from the township of PennDOT. If any substantive changes are needed to the layout of the plan, the TIS, the applicant will be required to receive modification approval from the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners. Condition 3 being provide signed and executed easements for all on-site and off-site work as well as stormwater management facilities. Condition number 4, provide a copy of the approved NPDES permit. Condition number 5, provide a signed developers agreement. Condition number 6, provide financial security for the timely, proper, and complete construction of all applicable improvements, including but not limited to paving, sidewalks, curbing, etc. Condition number 7, provide a stormwater operation and maintenance agreement. And condition number 8, to provide a fee in lieu of sidewalk installation in accordance with section 221107.E of the subdivision and land development ordinance, the amount of which to be provided shall be reviewed by the township engineer. And Mr. President, I'd like to note that the applicants are present in the audience to address the board and answer any questions.
Is there a motion on the waivers?
So moved.
Second.
Move to the second. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. These sidewalks on North Progress Avenue, that's section 22-1107. This property does not front Progress Avenue. I'm curious as to why our ordinance would require them to put a sidewalk there.
Commissioner, that would be the original lot that this plot of land is being subdivided out of was found along North Progress Avenue. So that's why sidewalks would be required there.
That Paxton Creek floodway area is actually part of this larger piece of ground this is being subdivided off of. So that's what brings that into play. And if I understand, they are going to be providing a fee in lieu of sidewalk installation amount to be determined in the future and reviewed by the township engineer.
That is
Is
correct.
that correct?
And Mr. Granley, I believe, has reviewed the cost estimate provided by their engineer. I don't know if Mr. Granley would like to touch on that.
Yeah, correct. The engineer provided a cost, opinion of probable cost, 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. I reviewed it and provided our recommendation to the township for the fee in lieu of.
Okay. Do you remember what the amount was?
I think it was around $10,000.
10,000?
10,000.
Oh, okay.
Didn't have a HOP.
They're not the prevailing wage.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to pay for what?
Prevailing wage.
Okay, that's what, okay.
I have another question regarding the traffic study. There's a waiver for a traffic impact study level of service. And then there's a condition that we have to receive a traffic impact study. So are we waiving the study or are we going to receive one?
I'll defer to Mr. Green because we have received a traffic impact study. And the waiver is it's very technical and engineering related. So I'll defer to Mr. Green to explain what is being waived specifically.
Yeah, sure. So we did receive a traffic impact study, and the waiver is the result of the review of the traffic impact study. The applicant is requesting a waiver of level of service in regard to the intersections, both with the two existing driveways and Dotson Court along Cone Road. So I'll certainly let Chick-fil-A's traffic engineer speak to this if you so choose, but essentially level of service is kind of like the amount of time it would take for a car exiting one of those driveways or Dotson Court to exit onto Cone Road. So as obviously as traffic increases in those areas, there could potentially be a longer wait to exit onto those roads. that is what's considered a drop level of service. So the initial impact study provided the commonly used method to analyze the level of service, both in pre and post development conditions. We provided a comment noting that there were some minor drops, and they were minor. The traffic engineer provided a supplemental analysis using a modeling method that accounts for the kind of like a holistic view of the traffic patterns through the signal timing, so the signal progress and cone. So as that light functions, obviously, many cars will go through that light and then cycle variously. That kind of traffic pattern produced by the traffic light allows for some openings on Cone Road to allow for better ingress and egress from the 3 driveways impacted.
Okay. So the bottom line is they gave us a traffic study that you determined was adequate in your view?
Correct, yes. The only kind of by the book deficiency was a level of service, and that's what they're requesting. Our traffic engineers reviewed the impact study, reviewed the supplemental data provided by Chick-fil-A's traffic engineer, and found it to be generally acceptable and take no exceptions to granting the waiver.
Do you foresee any problems with making a left out of Dobson onto Carmel Road? And my second question is, has the police and fire looked at this as far as entry and exit? Has there been any problem?
I don't know about the second answer.
Yeah.
Sandy, do you want to address the left turn on Dobson, or from Dobson onto Cone?
It's like a blind spot there when you're making that left there.
Yeah, the line of sight's not good.
Yeah.
You're looking up the hill.
That was one of the things that was covered in
Okay,
the traffic impact study. We were required to go out there and measure the sight distance.
very good.
So it is meeting the minimum requirements that it's supposed to in terms of looking to the left and to the right.
Mhm.
And they also had us do supplemental with some sight distance triangles in the report showing what the cues were on the signal and making sure that we still had sight distance
Very
if the signal was cueing as well. So that was all looked at in the study.
And then with fire trucks getting in and out, we don't foresee any issues there.
That was something that was included as part of the land development plan sets. There's
Okay.
truck turning templates in there.
Mhm.
And Justin from Colliers, who's the site engineer, he did include those in
Okay. Very good.
the plan side.
And to the second part of your question,
Yeah.
Commissioner, Chief Reese has seen these plans and
Very
given them his blessing. I don't know if, I'm not sure if Chief Martin has any comments, but on
Okay.
the fire side, Chief Reese has looked at them.
That's good. Good enough for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd only like to add the comment that there is sidewalk along Cone Road from Progress Avenue and also along Dodson Court all the way to this site. So there, in terms of sidewalks, there's a pretty good sidewalk network there, and the development plan calls for them continuing that sidewalk across the front of their lot around the cul-de-sac. The issue of Progress Avenue, I'm not quite sure what the solution is there in terms of sidewalks because it's so close to that highway interchange.
Yeah,
And there are people who walk there though.
there certainly is.
They've got a footpath apparently.
I think the eastern side is much more, would much easier accommodate a sidewalk, the eastern side of Progress Avenue. There's some topography challenges certainly on the western side. It goes from, an embankment to a pretty quick fall off, very steep. And then you also have the ramps to the interchange. So I certainly see a challenge in getting the sidewalk. Also, that would have to be permitted through PennDOT, so it would be ultimately their call.
Well, nevertheless, people do walk.
They do, certainly.
It's not advisable. I would never do it.
Yeah.
I would advise an enemy to do it. Not that I have an enemy.
There's a pretty wide shoulder there. I also see people walking the median, which is even scarier.
Median, at the end of the day, you drive.
Broad daylight. I think they walk up the median and then cross the other lane.
Okay, there was any other discussion? There was a motion made on all three waiver
Oh, I
requests.
have one other question.
Yes, sir.
Does approval of these conditions constitute acceptance of a $10,000 fee in lieu? I don't think you're gonna build much sidewalk for $10,000, in my opinion. We're just talking about what
So-
we're spending up front here.
So it was the amount determined by the township engineer. I think maybe that could be revised to be as deemed acceptable to the township. I don't know if Mr. Miller has any thoughts on
Well,
that.
if I recall correctly, the waiver does say the amount acceptable to the engineer.
Well, no,
Right.
it says it shall be reviewed by the engineer, which I think is a different thing.
So I will say that the costs that were used, well, number one, the opinion of probable cost submitted by the engineer was less. I believe it was just south of $6,000. So it was an increase over what they provided. It's in line with what we require for financial security. The dollar figures, the unit costs are in line with what we require to be held under
So
financial
how many
security.
feet of sidewalk is that based on?
Oh, it's I believe 150.
It's about 150. It's just.
Can you show us
the,
on the plan?
I'm sorry?
Can it be, is it shown on
It's
the plan?
actually not
No.
depicted on the plan.
Yeah.
No, it's not depicted. I have a aerial in the car. I can bring it if I have to.
No, sure.
You're gonna pull up the door.
It's not in the middle chair.
Essentially, all we were looking at was, we weren't looking at the area, let's say, in front of the gas station or the bank or any of the other uses there. We were just looking at the area in front of our site. And essentially, if you took our property line and went down to Progress Avenue, and then we went over to, I'll say, the highway entrance ramp, because we're not putting on the entrance ramp, so we have to stop there. And it worked out to be about 150 feet. The sidewalk.
I just have a question. So the sidewalk requirement is triggered, Mac, because of this subdivision of the lot, correct?
Correct.
So how far does the front of that lot that's being subdivided run?
I believe it runs further up than that. So
It should be shown on the plan, right?
is it not? Should be on the subdivision plan. You can kind of see it down here.
Zoom in, zoom in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the survey included a small blow up of the overall property there.
Yeah, so it goes down here a little bit along North Progress Avenue.
Where's the restaurant at on the plan?
So,
Ours is the gray lease
Okay,
area.
yep, we're shaded.
Yep.
Okay,
so the.
and then the front of it is, I see docking board. What's that measurement?
We'd have to, I could add it all. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I can see it all.
They got your scale.
I guess my question is then, what the estimate we received for was not for the entire area that
No,
would
it
be
wasn't for the-
required to install a sidewalk?
It wasn't for the entire length up until, that looks like it goes up in front of the gas station, because this property's already been subdivided a couple different times. We went on the assumption that, the Burger King and the gas station, the other uses, have to go through the same process. So they would have already paid a fee in lieu of for putting the sidewalk along Progress Avenue in front of their portions.
They did not. This was a newer ordinance. Absolutely.
Commissioner Rothrock, to your question, if you approve this waiver, then yes, you are approving the $10,000. And as you pointed out, the $10,000 is less than the cost that the township would pay if the township had to put the sidewalk in because of prevailing wage, as the engineer pointed out as well. So yes, because of I just took a look at this, approval of the waiver subject to the applicant providing a fee in lieu of installation, they have. It's $10,000 and it's been reviewed by the engineer and you've heard the engineer's opinion on it. So yes, you would be approving the $10,000 by approving the waiver.
Does the sidewalk connect with Burger King? I'm just curious.
There is no sidewalk on Progress Avenue at all.
No, I mean from in front of the.
Oh, on Johnson Court?
Yeah,
Yes,
So
our
they
our proposed sidewalk in front of our site there in that cul-de-sac
yeah,
will connect into the,
okay.
Are you gonna be behind the Burger King? Is that where, because there's Turkey Hill and then you keep going and then.
right, you have Turkey Hill, then you have Burger King, and then you have us.
Okay,
So we're right at the end of that cul-de-sac.
oh, so you're going to be beyond Burger King and then.
Correct. If you look at the plan where his mouse is where Burger King is. Oh, it was. Yeah, that's where he's highlighting now is where our site's gonna be.
Okay, okay.
We all talked about.
Alright.
Is there, there's a motion on the floor, but, is the board interested in considering the waiver separate?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Will the two motioners care to withdraw the motion?
Withdrawn.
Who's the second? Who's the second, Leanne? Okay. Is there a motion on waiver number one? Which is preliminary plan procedure requirement.
Yeah, I would move to approve that waiver for preliminary plan procedure.
Second.
Moved in second. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion on sidewalks along North Progress Avenue? The request for a waiver. Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the traffic impact study level of service waiver request?
So move.
Second.
Moved in second. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is the plan, and you, Mac, you outlined all the provisions of that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion on the plan?
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Engel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sanderson. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if I could briefly, Tyler Prime, firm of Prime to Bell, I represent the applicant. I think on waiver number 2, which was no action on, we're just looking for some clarification on what the board's pleasure would be. Are you looking for us to build the sidewalk on Progress Avenue in turn?
You should initiate conversation with staff, as you have in the past, as opposed to a board in a public meeting.
Okay.
So I would just reach out to Mac and, get the process rolling there.
In terms of like renegotiating a number and coming back for another waiver?
Just talk to Mr. Breach, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right, staff reports, Madam Manager.
So, the first part of my report is that we have a manager that the board is gonna consider appointing on the consent agenda. Her name is Teresa Everly. Teresa is currently the borough manager of Hummelstown. She went through a long process with the Board of Commissioners where we considered something like 10 different applicants. Teresa will spend time with me over the next 6 weeks learning the township's business. I'd like to thank Commissioner Napper because we put together a very large database of all of our current business and he transferred it to a better format in Excel. So before I leave, that will be completely updated. There's about 90 different, I think, entries into that database. But it's good to know where we are, who the contact people are, and what to do next. I'd also like to mention that the resignation of the assistant township manager, the staff in that department, plus the parks director have all taken on parts of her duties. and some of the work is quite significant. I'd like to note that the codes effort has been reorganized under our building codes official with the assistance of our executive assistant, and that is indeed a heavy workload, but I can see already that just the change in the reorganization and the plans for staffing for next year will result in a better codes enforcement effort. So I'm very happy to see that. Mr. Naus from Parks has actually gone outside of his Parks role and has volunteered to serve as our IT contact, and there really wasn't anybody that was logical to put in that spot, so that's really helpful. Besides the work inventory, the finance director has developed an inventory of grants with all of the details, and an assistant town manager could be assigned to keep that up to date and to keep the finance director up to date as the financial impacts of grants. For example, sometimes grants come through from the state and it is not marked exactly for what grant or program it's for. So there'll be a greater ability to manage grants, and you do have quite a few grants. In addition, Mac Breach our planner, has developed an analysis of all of the engineering services that have occurred over at least a 12 to 18 month period.
It was all in 2023.
It's all of 2023, so that you can tell what engineering money was spent on and maybe make some plans for better utilization of engineering resources. Let's see what else. The police department renovation, the project architect will finish work this year, so that when you consider that project next year, you will have a complete architectural plan, and then you can move to some additional specs. Right now, the police chief is requesting $1 million for that project, so it's likely to be a project for which you will incur debt. Which is, you will hear in the budget presentation that this is a good time to incur debt. Your debt is very low for your general fund, particularly for a municipality of this size. We have a new practice of reporting accidents and injuries to the manager, and I will be referring that on to the new manager to develop that into a clear policy. All contracts are now being reviewed by the solicitor, which has been very helpful. It points out some really important legal details as well as business details that we have to consider in letting contracts. The gaming grant this year was done by George Drees and the executive assistant, who put in a significant amount of time to get that gaming grant prepared properly and out. Stray winds, the recommendation was from the engineer along with the help of the planner and Attorney Diamond not to accept street dedication at this time. And finally, you are been awarded the stamp grant, which is will be a major undertaking of the municipality, so that you can have a matching grant to develop a 5-year financial plan. There'll be a lot of recommendations on greater efficiencies and use of resources, on staffing, on intergovernmental relations. And then, after you've adopted the initial report, you'll have access to a lot of grant funds to do innovative things. And having worked pretty heavily with one of these, it can be a really great thing if used well. So that's coming your way. So a lot of good things are happening.
Great. Just your analysis there, your reporting reminds me of how lucky we were to have you for these past few months.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
We're blessed with the best staff in Central Pennsylvania, from the department heads on down. We have a great staff, but to find somebody with your experience who's willing to serve on an interim basis, to shine the flashlights across disciplines the way you have, it's just been invaluable to me.
Well, it's been a privilege for me.
I speak for the whole board. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
And we'll see you some more. I mean, you'll be at the next meeting, right?
Yeah, I'll be here for a couple more meetings.
Couple more. Public Safety Police, Chief Martin.
Nothing, sir.
All right. Community and economic development, anything there, Matt?
No, sir.
Okay,
Report is included with the,
gotcha. Public Works, do you have anything else, Nate?
My report's attached, if you have any questions. Operations Manager, Travis Meese wanted me to, we get an uptick on calls and wanted me for the record to kind of explain how the leaf vacuum machines work, because we're getting dust complaints on cars. So on the record, they are like a large vacuum cleaner that has a screen, double screen on top that tries to filter out any dust, but some dust is going to exit the vehicle due to the amount of force of the vacuum sucking the leaves up. Right now, a lot of the pin oaks in that are dropping, which are a more dustier leaf. So we're not purposely trying to dust anyone's cars, but it is part of the process. That's all I have.
I don't think the pin oaks are falling yet. I think they're the last ones, at least my pin oak is.
Depends on where parts of the township it's different, which leaves.
Could
I can
be.
tell you all the black walnuts are done already.
Yeah, I have a lazy pin oak. Engineering, you all good?
yes.
Okay. Law Bureau,
No reports.
thank you. Parks and Rec, anything new there? Okay, hearing none. Okay, new business, transfer $447,673.66 from the general fund to the capital improvement fund. Ms. Duffer.
On September 12th, the Board of Commissioners transferred $447,672 from the final tranche of the ARPA funds to the general fund on a provision for recouping lost revenue, which is allowed under federal law. These funds were one-time revenues from ARPA to the general fund that may more appropriately be matched with one-time expenses, particularly capital expenses in the capital improvement fund. So I'm recommending, along with the finance director today, that these funds be transferred this year from the general fund to the capital improvement fund in 2024 to help fund future capital purchases, which are estimated in 2025 as 1.2 million, which is somewhat higher than you have in prior years had in your capital requests. It also helps with when you have a lot of one-time money that comes in, it distorts your fund balances so that your operating expenses and revenues, it somewhat distorts the vision of where you really are. So this, I think, will be helpful in clarifying your fund balance and will also help reduce the deficit in 2025. So I'm asking for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Big consent agenda tonight, approval of, probably a dozen items. Approval of statement of bills paid, approval of the appointment of Lauren Reese, Administrative Assistant for the Public Works Department. Approved financial security adjustment for the towns of Margaret Grove. There are several of these. Phase 3 being the amount of $154,742. Financial security would be adjusted to $85,942. Approved the purchase of a salt spreader for $9,270 from the capital fund. Equipment will be purchased through CoStars. Approve manager's agreement with Teresa Eberly, previously mentioned by Ms. Dunford, to serve as Susquehanna Township manager beginning November 18th. Approve agreement with Shell's Tree Service to remove a dead tree at 505 Latchmere Drive. The Shade Tree Commission approved using $3,585 of the Shade Tree Assistance Program to remove this tree. Approve the sale of a 2007 Johnson sweeper being sold on municipal in the amount of $6,078. Approve financial security adjustment number 2, Town of Margaret Grove, Phase 2B, in the amount of $38,554. The amount left would be $19,250. Financial security agreement number 2 for Margaret's Grove Phase 3A in the amount of $65,490, leaving $90,408. Approved financial security adjustment number 3 at the towns at Margaret's Grove, Phase 2A, in the amount of $18,252, leaving $60,595.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have questions on two of those items. Yeah, under the bills paid, I noticed that the amount was quite a bit more than we typically see in a normal month. And so I looked and I found two items. One, sewer authority debt refinancing of 1.768 million, and 2021 general obligation bonds of 826,000. I've just wondered what those were and what the impact is on our budget of doing this. Sorry, Joe.
No, that's okay. Those two items are debt payments. And they will be the sewer authority 2018 general obligation debt will be returned. It's gonna be like billed to the authority, and the authority will repay it. It's paid through the township because there's a debt guarantee. The township took the debt out for the authority.
Okay. And the general obligation bonds were just reducing our general obligation debt?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The second thing I had here was, there's a number of financial security adjustments for Margaret's Grove. And I want to ask our engineer about my favorite topic at Margaret's Grove, which is the rain gardens. And there's also some paving, wearing course that's not there. I want to make sure we're not releasing security for those.
We are not, yeah, so phase 2A, the rain gardens, are still being held. I intend to, contact McNaughton to see when they, hopefully sooner than later, will, be converted. They're not even converted yet. They're still in temporary sediment phase.
Sure.
So, I imagine that will come once, phase 3B, is fully constructed, because they're still being utilized as sediment basins.
So they've got the storm sewer, storm drains and the curbing and stuff in that.
So, the wearing course for 3B has not been released. That's still outstanding. They're, did a pretty thorough inspection. They get a good 2 days, so.
Okay, I appreciate that, Alex, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I get my rain gardens done.
Yeah, I know. I specifically made mention.
Mr. President, I have one question. Why are we paying to remove a tree in Latchmere?
Sure, so, thank you, Commissioner. My understanding, this was a program, started by Manager Pavolka, Shade Tree, Assistance Program. I apologize for my lack of knowledge. I just recently got involved with the Shade Tree, Commission. And, they qualified to meet the, requirements as part of the Shade Tree Assistance Program. They provided all of the documentation, proof of indigence. So that's why it's on here. And I apologize, I'm not exactly familiar with the nuances of this, the Shade Tree Assistance Program, but this request has been reviewed by the Shade Tree Commission, and this is what they recommended.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I may, so this program was probably began when Manager Pavolka was here, but it wasn't his program. It was something that was approved by the board. There's a budgeted line item for this.
And it's based on poverty level, all these other factors.
Okay.
Danger to the street. There's a set of criteria they have to do.
Thank you.
I don't believe we had any prior expenditures out of that. Did we?
According to the Shade Tree Commission, this is the first one that has gone through the program.
It's amazing.
I think it's a matter of public safety in a certain respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Tree. Okay. Surveys. Any other comments or questions? All approved. What? Is there a motion?
Yeah.
Give
us a motion, I'll second, yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Who wants to talk about public?
Me, I'll move to adjourn.
No. First, we have Commissioner comments.
I know,
All right.
I know.
Any commissioner comments?
Yes, there is the meeting for the school district. I remember it was October 18th for the tax information. It's going to be at the high school. Just,
I got something to mail on that today.
yep,
Oh,
that's all I have.
I'm glad I haven't come yet.
Any other quick comments?
Mailman, like,
Commissioner Sanders?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.